we got Rage here and Grungy here up against one another on Wildwoods. So, yeah, spawning over here. Rage is rallying all the way over here. This storehouse, I mean, it's reasonable, but at the same time, if he skips going for this to start off with and does what Grungy's doing and puts it right next to the hunt, actually, it's going to be a bit more beneficial. So, yes, we've got Grungy as our player 2. Really strong player, making it to the top 16 in the recent tournament. It's a very solid player all round. A little bit more seasoned than Rage. Not to say Rage is a bad player as such, but he's a little bit inexperienced with playing, you know, a perfectly optimal tournament standard game. So you can see he's already distance gathering his wood a little bit further than Grungy, as well as his food on the slightly slower food source. So the berries, they are 0.9 per second. The hunt is 1.3 per second before gather upgrades. Now, Rage did take a very early picker's gloves, and if you are going on berries, I will commend him for this. If you are going on berries, taking an ASAP picker's gloves is pretty much a must. It's a 20% upgrade for only 75 resources, whereas hunting dogs is 125 resources, and it's a, well, it's 10% gather rate. It does have that conservation effect, and it does let you take better fights, quicker fights against all the aggressive huntables, but they've been nerfed to oblivion. So, Grungy as well, hiding the barracks up the back here. So, Rage, even though he's coming in to scout, to his credit, he's not taking a terribly bad timing in scouting here. I think it's pretty good timing, but slightly greedier than Grungy's, but in saying that, it also gives him a bit of advantage in knowing what's over his side of the map a little bit more. So I tend to play quite a greedy scout myself. But in saying that, Grungy's put this barracks right up the back, so it's going to be interesting to see if Rage can see it, because really nice hidden position there. Not too far out of TC range, and because it's up the backside of his base, it doesn't really matter that it's outside of TC range, and because he's got that fast barracks off his first storehouse, yeah, he should be pretty safe. In fact, because he had 3 trees there, he's opted to sit on that first storehouse for longer, which is pretty smart. I think I'd do the same in this situation. Then you can go for the 3rd or 4th storehouse on the wood line, and along with the gold one now-ish. He'll be a little bit late on it, but it's going to be, I think, a bit more optimal than Rage's setup. Rage is aging up on 13 villages, and on 11 villages, and I think 13 to 15 is sort of the optimal area. Just the thing is, because you're going to have the resources in the bank to immediately throw down the town centre. Like, that's assuming you're going for fast town centre. If you go for 13, you can pretty much throw down the town centre. Not long after you age up at 14 and 15, it's pretty much ASAP. As soon as you finish up the age up, you're going to get the town centre, you're going to get handsaw, stuff like that. So Grungy aging up a little bit slower than Rage here, who already has handsaw on the way as well. So he's taking his eco techs well, but because he is down on those early villages, he's behind on score a little bit, gathering a bit slower, and because he's not on the deer, even though he's slightly safer, and Grungy, you know, doesn't have a reason to move out, at the same time, Rage is unaware that Grungy already has 8 army pop. It's going to be up to 10. He's going to be able to add his town centre after his age up pretty quickly as well, because to be able to do it at about 20 villages. Just needs to gather a little bit more food here. Probably should put one of these stone gatherers on his food just to try and squeeze out that quicker age up. But at the same time, when he gets 300 stone, he'll be able to do that. He can just pull all these guys off here. Some on wood, some on food, and just really age and TC quite quickly. Rage will be unaware that this is going to hit, I think. I mean, he knows Grungy is going to be quite an aggressive player, because Grungy generally is quite an aggressive player. Distant TC here though. Not necessarily bad, but at the same time, you really want your scout in front of it, just making sure that nothing's on the way. Like Grungy, oh, this is good. Yeah, this is good. Rage has seen this, so yeah, good props to him, because Grungy has seen this, but he's seen this late, and there is a lot of villages there, so as long as Rage micros villages, he should be able to save this. He might lose a couple of villages here, but he needs to just garrison ASAP. Maybe gather stone because that's 10 spears. Yeah, he might need to gather a little bit of stone, a little bit of wood through this, and he wants to throw up a quick barracks. So that decent TC. Yeah, he's gonna have to try and gather wood there, gather some stone back here. Needs to map out those villages, so this is hurting Rage a little bit. So in the meanwhile, like while this is going on, Rage could be making 2 villages at a time, while Grungy's only making 1. And you know, he needs to just try and focus down, ignore the scout. The scout doesn't really do a lot of damage to buildings or units, so just try and focus down the spearmen. Like try and micro the spearmen to hit, try and micro your villages to focus down spearmen in number. Like Grungy right now, it's got the optimal pick off of villages and is dealing as much damage as he can to the TC. Like he sniped 3 villages there, he lost 5 spears and the scout, but he sniped 3 villages, so it's 17 vills to 25. Grungy, even though he's got the slower Rage up, he's got a 8 villager lead because he basically stunned Rage's eco while that was going on, in a sense. Like Rage is gathering plenty of food, which is cool, and he didn't lose the town center, didn't need to actually gather in the end. But yeah, that's the thing, like either he should leave his villagers garrison and only pull them out to repair the TC so he loses none, or pulls them out to try and throw up a quick storehouse on the far side and then just try and, you know, get hunting dogs and just try and fight them, but then garrison and just try and only lose the storehouse at most. Come out of it with 9 or 10 villages instead of 7. And if he had kept producing villages here and just garrisoned them inside the TC, he can do that up to 15 villages in that town center. So you want to be doing that, because otherwise you're not, you know, expanding your gather rate as the game goes on by as much as you can. Because Grungy maintained his 1 TC villager production behind all that aggression, which, yeah, like to his credit, does take a little bit of work to actually do, to expand into, you know, double racks, maintain that villager production. He's 26 vills to 24. Like Rage has managed to catch up in that vill lead. Like that's obviously the advantage of going for the fast town center, but he could actually be ahead by about 3 to 5 villages at this stage if he lost none of them and maintained continuous production out of that TC. So right now, Grungy is quite a fair bit ahead in score. He's like sneaking in all the eco techs he delayed. But yeah, Rage is really only getting aid tent now. Yeah, he does have a couple of low villages here, so they still need to be healed up by the aid tent. To his credit, he is getting that now, so that's good, because then it just means he could just park these guys gathering there. They can all heal up. But like if Grungy had to snipe them, he could have like had an 11 vill lead in the opening. Then he was up to about 7 or 8. So, and yeah, now he's got that many spears, he actually can threaten this town center. Although he probably needs to add in either Decurions or Slingers at this point. He has lost his scout though, so he's sort of having to fly blind without sending a spear or 2 in to basically continually like try and scout these and just die, because you know you're not going to have the vision that a scout will with the spearmen. They do have lower line of sight, so you can lose a couple. But it may be worth it getting the scouting, because Grungy doesn't actually know that Rage has the right counter here. So yeah, Rage has instinctively basically gone, alright, fuck, well I need to force out something to counter the spears, so it's the range, which is good. But in saying that, if Grungy had have basically ultimately scouted, at this point Rage would just be fucked. He'd be that far behind on eco. Grungy could have just forced out 2 auxiliary camps or praetoriums instead of this barracks. But I mean, instead Grungy's going in for the long haul now that he's got the early opening, and he getting an early temper on a civ like Romans, Norse or Celts is a good idea, because you're just going to play with an extremely heavy melee for most of the early and even a lot of the mid game. Like I mean, Age 2 is basically just melee, and then Age 3 is like mixed but melee dominant. And Grungy getting this caravan line in as well. He's at 39 to 37 villages, so Rage has done a great job maintaining his villages production right up until about now with this first TC, but I think he's just was housed at the time. He's got plenty of food though, a bit too much in the bank, so he probably could have forced out a stables here, or another barracks, or even another range. Mass Bowman in this position isn't too bad though, because I mean Grungy's going to get this TC, but he's going to lose a lot of these spears cost ineffectively. So to his credit, that's good, but at the same time he needs to be trying to repair this. You know, getting the stone, getting the wood, and trying to repair that as long as possible, just to try and snipe as many spears as possible, and trying to get them on the way out. Because Grungy didn't fare too badly. Like, I mean, I was going to say he was going to do that cost ineffectively, but I don't think he lost that many spears. It was only about 7 or 8, I think. So I think a lot of these backline bowmen weren't really attacking the whole time. It was only really when those straggler spears were coming over to them. So Rage's bow ball, I mean, it was the optimal defense, but it was just ill positioned. So I mean, you don't want to lose it. Like, obviously these guys are taking damage, but like these guys back here, they really need to be over here, like in front of this wall. Yeah, some villagers repaired that. Now the town centers go up again. It's not a bad spot, but at the same time it probably needs to be over here, so you can get that only one space gathering there. You know, optimal gathering. Have your villagers sandwiched right in between the like you do with your storehouses. You know, have it sandwiched only one between. Like, we'll check out Grungy's positioning. Like this is pretty much optimal here. Sandwiched his villagers. One gap between the berry source, the gold source, and where his initial wood line started, and where his initial huntables were. So yeah, Grungy, the very, very optimal storehouse placement, and really nice bowman here. So this is going to be good against Grungy's massive spearmen, but at the same time, because there are these little niggles, these little errors in these little kinks in Rage's play, right? He's just not going to be able to maximize the value out of these bowmen. Like 30 to 50 bowmen in someone like Grungy's or Geese's hands, fuck man, it's scary. Like that shit is like game ending, man. So, and I mean, he's literally running the unit that gets hard countered here. This is not going to get a lot of value here. Grungy probably should not have sent this in, because Rage has got, yeah, Grungy only realizing now, so he's going to lose all that for free. But at the same time, is he going to transition to a proper army here, or is he just going to keep sending spearmen? Well, 44 to 74 villages, so yeah, Grungy maintaining constant villager production, while Rage has had a bit of a villager cut while a lot of these little engagements have been going on. So that's been hurting him a bit. The early market line as well on a big map, faring Grungy really, really well. And being able to just hit multiple places at once with these spears. Rage is forced to really bring these slow units around. Like, the bows aren't going to be that slow, but the spears are still going to be like half a movement speed faster, like another 10% faster. So he's going to snipe a little bit here, pretty much for free. He needs to be careful to not run these guys in, but at the same time, he's going to be able to dive some more villagers here, keep expanding his vill lead. And he's really leveraging the fact that he's just got a bigger economy. He's basically 81 to 44 villages. He's basically got double the vill count at the moment, 81 to 42. So, and he's denying Rage's vision here. So Rage, to his credit, he's getting a lot of good upgrades here, and he's trying to defend in multiple places at once. But Grungy, even with just this massive spearman, because he's playing this build so optimally, basically, he's able to find the little chinks in Rage's armor, deal this damage around the map, trading fairly cost effectively, because where it's cost ineffectively, he's still hitting the eco, and he still has an eco lead, so he's slowing Rage down, getting more at home. Like he's got 3 upgrades already. No, he's got 4 upgrades already, whereas Rage, I think Rage has no army upgrades yet. So like Grungy, really working on his mid game here, getting some Age 3 upgrades. Rage took Age 3, so he's not that far behind in that regard. He's got his eco upgrades down. But yeah, no army upgrades, much smaller eco still. So 39 vills to 88. Grungy going to wall up, play the defensive game for a bit, and he's going to transition into a proper composition now, getting massive Praetoriums. He's going to throw down more Castellums. Plenty of towers as well. Grungy's playing this super bloody greedily though. He needs to be a little bit careful. But I think he's going to pull this off because there's just this many units with no Pierce Armor upgrade that don't have high health pulse. Like there's none of the Asabara here and no Sparabara here. So these are the two units that are really quite vulnerable to the early tower early tower hold or early tower push against the Persia. Oh, here we go. Here's some Spyro Champ. These guys can really start tanking some arrow fire. Grungy is going to get these towers up. We're going to send his own army in. Cavalry there. How do you say it? Is it Eka? Ekas? I have no idea how to say them. But anyways, Grungy's got the Age 3 cavalry here. For the Romans. For the towers. Really putting in the work, picking off the bowmen where he can, which is smart. You know, microing them onto the bowmen over the infantry. Well, he kills the infantry as well with all his own melee. Oh yeah, he's microed the cavalry on. So these guys actually counter ranged gen cavalry. It's not quite enough here, but at the same time, Rage is not producing any vills behind this. He's got a little bit in the bank, so he can really replace this army and try and push Grungy also. But Grungy playing incredibly greedy, seizing a lot of resources on the map, like that gold mine pretty much in the middle. He's going to have vision of a lot of this mid-map as well. This is bad for his market line, but at the same time Grungy, age 4 on the way. He's still up to 80 vills to 46, so he's going to bleed a lot of caravans here, but ultimately he is going to kill this army. Rage hasn't got the units here to actually back this up and try and bring down the rest of the towers before this really gets solidified, so I think Grungy's going to be safe here. He's done all he really needs to do. He's got the Centurions here, just a really nice general tank, high innate armor, a reasonably high health pool. They are a bit expensive, but yeah, like between the EHP and the base damage they do, and the damage on their bloody javelin throw, it's wonderful. Rich boy here, got them all geared up. But yeah, Grungy with a bit of a late hold there. Like, I mean, it's a bit sloppy, but at the same time, he's sneaking in so many upgrades behind this. Like he basically minimalistically defended that, and I sort of understand why. Just because he snuck so much into it, he just needs to cancel these, and he's gonna have a little bit more in the bank. Just needs to transition a bit back onto his food eco. I think he'll do that in just a sec though. Just getting the wood and gold for some upgrades, but yeah, right now Grungy pretty wealthy. Only a couple of holes in his eco here. Maybe just wants to take that hunt and there's berries. He's expanding his farm eco though, so that can sort of explain the big wood boom there. He's 37 gold gatherers, so you need a lot of gold in the Romans too, so just because he's going to sneak in so many upgrades. Legionary champion, Primus champion, Aquilifa champion, Decurion champion, Akis champion, handcart, chainmail, Roman roads. Like, this man has like 10 techs in the queue at the moment. Like, Rage right now is definitely a full age behind, and his composition is really age 2 oriented really. Like, there's no immortals, no mounted archers, no Asabara champion. He does have bow champ and spear champ. I mean, it's reasonable, but at the same time I do think he probably wants to work in some mounted archers and try and, or Asabara or both, and try and make a raid somewhere. Like, Grungy's walled up all this top side, so it's going to make it difficult too, but Rage is expanding his vision here. He's still got that scout alive, so he's making work of that fella. So big props to Rage. He's playing that out well. And I mean, this big army ball is pretty cheap, and with a champ upgrade, really good against what it'll hard counter. But I just wonder if he's going to be a little late on his transition to making use of immortals, or like I said, involving the stables a bit more at this stage of the game. Like, because he is that little bit far behind, this composition might not work as well as it perhaps could. Like, it's 64 to 107 vils. Like, Grungy has managed to boom a whole half an eco over Rage. This little army here will get picked off though, so Rage, pretty much because he's chasing this with this whole army, he's going to allow Grungy the time to wall up or throw down a second fort here and make it hard for this army to actually come in and bust that. Grungy still down on his army population size at the moment. I don't think he will be for much longer. Like, he's adding Decurions, Bowmen. They'll both be pretty good against this composition. I think Scorpios would probably be Grungy's best addition right now. He's going to add Gallic Horsemen in. Have like a Gallic Horseman Bowman officer. And maybe... I'm not sure if he's going to keep making use of the racks. We'll see. But yeah, I think just because it's the one pop Persian comp, because it's such a small, tightly bunched, low HP composition, and the infantry will get countered by the Scorps, and yeah, Bowmen just are innately pretty squishy. Low health pool means they are effectively countered by the high damage splash crush units. Yeah, and this fort's going to get a lot of good kills here. Rage, because he's down on eco, he can only afford to throw away so many squishy units here. The Bowmen are going to cop most of the brunt of this. I think Grungy's actually selected the fort to focus all the Bowmen down. These guys are going to come in and repair this at a good time here. Might not be enough. No, it's not going to be enough. And Grungy is only just now hitting the army size he needs to be able to clean this up. But in saying that, the fort's already done a lot of the work. The town center is probably going to go down, but Grungy can just replace it. He's already over 180 pop, so doesn't have to sweat too much because Rage isn't even maxed out at 180 pop. He's going to fort the other side as well. Smart play here from Grungy. He's definitely playing a smart long game here. Engineering coming in, Marian Reforms coming in, so Marian Reformation, sorry, and really big techs here for the Romans because that these single engineers building stuff, they're going to be building it basically 30%, 35% quicker. Marian Reformation, the gold cost of all his officer units, which are his gold heavy units, are going to be 35% cheaper, so, I mean 50% cheaper, so Grungy really making use of this expensive but strong Roman late game. With this eco advantage, he's managed to leverage out of a pretty risky and, you know, fighting wise suboptimal push, but because he's just was hit and running so well and applying that pressure, Rage, you know, was put in the position where if you're not making, oh, and here we go, this fight, the Decurion, such a great addition here, a couple of Aquilifers too, and a Centurion, and the Bowman coming forward, so he's going to be able to clean this up before the TC goes down. But yeah, Rage, because every time he's engaging in these fights, he's not maintaining his villager production, while Grungy is as he takes these fights. Naturally, Grungy's eco is expanding and Rage's isn't. And then Rage is also dropping villagers that he probably could be at least minimizing the number of, as well as potentially getting a couple more kills out of, you know, Grungy with that initial spear push. And then, you know, not throwing away so much or getting a little bit more value out of these pushes, like I said, with either a slightly more varied composition, like adding in the Asabara in the Age 2 composition push, or moving up to the Age 3 composition push and getting, you know, Immortal, Asabara, Mounted Archer, and some Rams. And maybe still getting a couple of Sparrow or Spearmen, maybe not both, maybe just one of them, whichever one you really need more of at the time. You know, if he goes cavalry, you get the spears. If he's playing really tower heavy, you get the Sparrow. Yeah, and just try and push with those sorts of compositions. Yeah, try and work in the Rams if you can. Persia's probably one of the best civs for making use of just their nice, cheap Rams. Obviously, you got to go workshops, which they're pretty cheap, but they don't have the benefit of being a fort. Like Norse, they get the Farbs in Age 3, so they've probably got the nicest fort transition. But Persia's got a really nice, probably the best siege workshop transition. Probably the most cost-effective Ram. unit to have out in the field in age 3. So Grungy's really able to harass with a small number of units here. He's got the Primus and the Centurion, so there's just this high value sniping composition. Really interesting to see here. And it's going to pose a huge threat to this similar sized Persian army that's, yeah, basically, like I said, an age 2 comp. The Asabara haven't got champion yet. It's Spear and a couple of Bowmen. There's no Immortals, no Mounted Archers. Grungy really putting in the work there. And behind this, Grungy's maxed out 126 pop, taking the last of his upgrades. So Presidium coming in, he's going to get innate base defense out of his barracks. Age 4 upgrades kicking in, and he's sniping some production in a couple of caravans. So Rage stuck at 60 pop. Because he's bleeding all these caravans out of this market, and he hasn't set up another market line elsewhere, it's really interrupting his gathering. He's falling further and further behind. Grungy able to just keep sniping stuff with this fairly minimal sized army. It's only about 30 pop worth of units, and you know, he's got another 50 to spare, just back defending for now, massed up, waiting for their final upgrades to kick in. Grungy still managing to take these cost-effective fights against an army that could be a lot bigger here from Rage. Rage could probably even sneak in a tower over here at the side and then try and take a late hit, add some more units into this comp. Asabara champion kicking in for him now is good, but he needs to add some more production here. He's age 3 now, so like I said, immortal camps, more stables. Try and get a ram here and put some pressure on these gates. Try and take down the fort and some of these towers. You know, get a ram, get some cavalry to defend it, get maybe some mounted archers to defend it too. And just try and catch up a little bit here, really. Like, he's still down. And Grungy's cutting workers now, so this is a good time for Rage to try and, you know, put some counter pressure on once he maxes out. Try and play catch up, get into age 3, but all these overextended workers here from the Roman player as well. Like, Grungy basically doing this deliberately to try and have Rage kill them, but it's going to be ineffective if he's going to bleed that many bowmen. It's going to outweigh unnecessary villager deaths. Like, Grungy doesn't need those resources anymore. But now he's going to put forward army building, and if this goes down, I think this is going to be the death knell here. So, a bunch of forums are going to go down too, so there's even going to be either Clinicus or Pontifex is coming out, so to be able to make use of all these high value endgame, or if he gets the upgrades, and he will, he's going to have like an officer, healer, converter composition. Just continually engaging and disengaging. I love it. Grungy making full value. Centurions. Go in here. It's just waiting for the last. There we go. If those are split up rather than targeting a single unit as well, it's just 1 billion damage. And I didn't see this going in, but Grungy had also opted to raid on the other side with a similar composition, with all the Equilifers, Decurions and some Bowmen, getting what must have been Rage's last gold mine. All the caravans are dead, mind you. Like I said, there's no alternative gold line being set up over here by Rage, which would be nice because he could have kept it out of the way. He probably could have put, if you know, and put the workshop here and push through here, or vice versa. And always be aware that your opponent can split push you. As he's taking like a 30 to 40 pop fight over here, you know, you can have anywhere up to another 80 pop over here pushing you. But yeah, ultimately, I think Rage just got out multitasked. Like, that was probably Grungy's intention there. Like he said, Primus is OP if you micro it well, I think. And I think he's probably right there too. But in saying that, in an even footing game, I'm not so sure if that strat's going to work as well. But Grungy executed that really, really well. And well played to both players.